y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Stephanie and I appreciate y'all stopping by. Today I'll be showing y'all how I made these 8 quick and easy gingerbread themed minis for my tiered tray. I do want to mention that today's video is part of the Crafted by Corey's mini challenge this month, and if y'all haven't checked out her channel, you're missing out. She is absolutely amazing. I'll link her channel below in the description box, as well as a link to the playlist for today's challenge so y'all can get even more inspiration for your tiered tray. I hope y'all enjoy the video, and if you do, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's go ahead and jump into DIY number 1. For this first project, I used 1 2-pack of round floral foam from Dollar Tree and paper cutouts of a gingerbread man and woman that I traced off the computer. I started by putting some painter's tape on the back of the gingerbread man cutout and placed it in the center of one of the foam rounds. Next, I used a putty knife to cut the excess styrofoam out from around the shape. This would probably be much easier if you used a gingerbread man cookie cutter, but I couldn't find mine anywhere. The foam was fairly easy to cut, but in the larger sections under the arm, I did end up having to cut it out in smaller pieces. Once I had the shape completely cut out, I removed the paper template from the top and used a sanding sponge and a nail file to smooth out around the edges and to shape the gingerbread man a little bit more. The nail file worked much better in the tighter areas. I also made sure to smooth out the bottoms of the feet so that he would be able to stand on his own. I then repeated the steps using the gingerbread woman template on the other foam round. Here's how the 2 gingerbread people looked once I had them cut out and shaped. I used a nice thick coat of apple barrel paint in the color nutmeg to paint the front, back, and sides of both of the gingerbread people. Once they were completely dry, I took some white puffy paint and drew on the details of the gingerbread woman's dress and face. I'm going to go ahead and say that apparently I'm not a cookie decorator because I had a little bit of difficulty with these gingerbread people's detail work, but I still think they turned out pretty cute, and you'll see in a little bit that I did go back and fix her mouth. I used the same white puffy paint to give the gingerbread man his face, sleeves, and buttons. Again, in the next clip you'll see I fixed him up off camera as well. Here is how they looked once they were decorated. Once the white paint was dry, I used one of the red and one of the green mini bows from Dollar Tree to add a little more detail and to finish off this project. I took one of the red bows and twisted it to make sure that it was nice and tight and cut off the excess twist tie. I then cut the tails of the bow a little bit shorter so that it wouldn't cover the gingerbread woman's eyes, and then used hot glue to glue it to the top of her head where the bow shape was. Then I took one of the green bows and cut the tails off completely so that it would now be a bow tie, and then cut off the excess twist ties and hot glued the bow under the gingerbread man's chin, and that was it for this quick and easy project. These turned out super cute, I think. Moving on to DIY number 2. For this second project, I used 6 of the wood craft cubes from Dollar Tree. I used apple barrel paint in the color nutmeg brown and painted them with 2 good coats. I then used my Cricut to cut out the words "Oh Snap" and cut each letter apart. Once the paint was dry and the letters separated, I put 1 letter on each of the blocks so that they would say "Oh Snap" once they are glued together. You don't have to have a vinyl machine to do this project. You can use stickers or freehand the letters if you wanted. After I had the letters on the cubes, I used hot glue to glue the blocks together to spell out the word "Oh" and the word "Snap." You could use wood glue or E6000 for this if you wanted a stronger hold. Once I had the 2 words glued together, I used hot glue to glue the word "Oh" on top of the word "Snap." Then, to finish off this little project, I used some of the white puffy paint to make it look like the icing was dripping down from the top of the blocks. I really do love how this one turned out. Let's go ahead and move on to DIY number 3. I used one of these square craft wood pieces from Dollar Tree. I started by using apple barrel nutmeg brown paint to paint the entire wood piece with about 3 good coats. Once the paint was dry, I cut out the words "Candy Cane Wishes" and "Gingerbread Kisses" in white vinyl and put it on the front of the wood piece, trying to get it as close to the center as possible. I do want to mention that all the decals and words that I'm using in today's video I made using Cricut Design Space and used the fonts and images that was already uploaded there. Next, I took one of these Gingerbread Men wood cutouts from Dollar Tree and painted just one side with one light coat of the nutmeg brown paint. I also used one of these little candy canes that I picked up at the Target dollar spot last year. I used hot glue to attach the candy cane on the left side of the word wishes and the gingerbread man to the right of the word kisses. Next, I took the white puffy paint and drew on the details to the gingerbread man. To finish off this project, I took more of the white puffy paint and went along the top of the sign to make it look like the icing was dripping down the front. And that's it for this super quick and easy sign, and I couldn't be happier with the way it turned out. Moving right along to DIY number 4. For this project, I used one of the wood planks from Dollar Tree and painted both sides with a couple coats of the nutmeg brown paint. Next, I took 6 of these skinny sticks that I picked up at Walmart and painted only one side of each stick with Ceram Coat paint in the color white. You can see here that I also painted one of the wood cubes white as well. Once the paint was dry, I used the skinny sticks to make a frame on the front of the wood plank. I measured out 2 sticks for the top and cut them to size using scissors. After I had the sticks cut to the right size, I used hot glue to glue them in place. I then repeated this process for the bottom of the plank. For the sides of the frame, I used one skinny stick. I measured it to fit between the top and the bottom stick and cut it to size and used hot glue to glue it in place. I used Cricut Design Space to create a vinyl decal to represent my family as Gingerbread People and put it in the center of the plank inside the frame. Next, I used hot glue to attach the wood cube to the back of the plank so that it would stand on its own. Then, to finish off this project, I used some white puffy paint along the top of the sign and the bottom of the frame to make it look a little more like gingerbread. That's it for this one. I think this one has to be my favorite out of all of today's projects. Alright, DIY number 5. For this project, I used 10 of these wooden gingerbread men cutouts from Dollar Tree and one of these giant craft sticks from Walmart. I started by cutting the ends off the craft stick and then painted it and the gingerbread men with 2 coats of the nutmeg brown paint. I used Ceram Coat paint in white and apple barrel paint in bright red to put the details on the gingerbread men. I used the end of a small paintbrush dipped in the white paint to make the eyes and mouth for each of the gingerbread men. Although I did end up changing paintbrushes for the mouth and went ahead and used a small regular paintbrush for that. For the buttons, I used the end of a slightly bigger paintbrush. I did a mixture of the red and white for buttons on the gingerbread to give them a little more depth and a little individuality. Once all the paint was dry, I used hot glue to attach 4 of the gingerbread men to the top of the craft stick in a straight line. I used hot glue, but you could use a stronger adhesive if you like. After I had the first row glued down, I glued the next row of 3 gingerbread men on top of the bottom row. Next, I hot glued a row of 2 gingerbread men on top of row 3. Then I hot glued 1 single gingerbread man on top of the row of 2. To finish off this project, I took some white puffy paint and used it to paint the top of the craft stick around the gingerbread men's feet to look like they were standing in icing. I do absolutely love how this one turned out. I think it reminds me of like a gingerbread man tree. Let's move on to DIY number 6. For the first part of this project, I used 2 of these favor bags from Hobby Lobby. I started by removing the twine bows on each of the bags and painted them with Waverly chalk paint in the color crimson. Next, I cut out the words flour and sugar in white vinyl and put one on each of the bags. Again, you don't have to have a vinyl machine to do these projects. You could use stickers, freehand, or stencils to put the words on the bags. Also, I know heat transfer vinyl would be best, but I didn't have any on hand, and I think these will be okay since they won't be moved around very much. Once I had the words on the bags, I used hot glue to reattach the bows. Then, to finish off this part of the project, I took some paper towels and stuffed the inside of the bags. You can use pillow stuffing if you want. I just didn't have any on hand and had to improvise. Once I had the bags filled with paper towels, I pulled the strings and tied them in a knot on the back side of the bags. For the second part of this project, I used 2 of these small glass bottles from Hobby Lobby. I started by washing them with warm soapy water and letting them completely dry. When they were dry, I took the words ginger and cinnamon that I cut out in white vinyl and put one on each of the bottles. Since these jars are food safe, I decided to go ahead and put real ginger and cinnamon in the jars to finish off this project. I am super happy with how this set of gingerbread making ingredients turned out, and I think it looks absolutely adorable on my tiered tray. Let's go ahead and move on to DIY number 7. For this quick project, I used one of these mini wooden rolling pins that come in a 3-pack from Hobby Lobby. I used apple barrel paint in the color bright red to paint the main part of the rolling pin. I did do 2 coats to fully cover the wood grain. I used apple barrel paint in the color nutmeg brown to paint the handles, again using 2 coats. I cut out the word sweet in white vinyl, and once the paint was dry, I put it on the right side of the rolling pin. Then, to finish off this project, I used some white puffy paint and went around the other end of the rolling pin opposite the word sweet. I wanted it to look like icing was dripping down the rolling pin. I told y'all this one was quick, but I think it turned out oh so cute. And last but not least, DIY number 8. I kind of hesitate to call this a DIY even, but I like to have an arrangement of some kind as a focal point on my tiered tray. So I used my wooden barrel from Hobby Lobby that I've had for well over a year, and I change out every season or holiday. I didn't have any of my Christmas greenery out, so I went ahead and used some boxwood and arranged it in the barrel. Then I took a random green and red pick and a couple of peppermint picks and arranged them around in the boxwood until I was happy with the way it looked. I think it turned out cute, but I'm definitely going to be changing out the greenery to a holly this holiday season. Let me know in the comments below if you like to have an arrangement as a focal point on your tiered tray. Here's the final reveal of all of today's gingerbread themed minis displayed on my tiered tray. I have so many more gingerbread ideas, so let me know if y'all would like to see a part 2. I absolutely love how these minis came together to create a wonderful festive tiered tray. Which one of these projects is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. Mine has to be the gingerbread family sign. I want to thank each and every one of you for stopping by, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help me out here on YouTube. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? Click that button and stick around for a little while. I have tons of fun projects on the way. Please don't forget to go check out Corey's channel linked in the description box below, as well as check out the playlist for even more Christmas in July minis inspiration. I'll see y'all next time.